You're watching Channel 7. Welcome back to even more Daily Rundown with me, Cal Doughty, Madie Howard and Stephen Durrant. Girls in Britain are becoming more miserable, suggests the Children's Society annual report. Among 10 to 15-year-old girls, the charity report says 14% are unhappy with their lives as a whole and 34% with their appearance. Researchers were told of girls feeling ugly or worthless. The figures for England, Wales and Scotland for 2013 to 14 represent a sharp rise in unhappiness on 5 years before. By contrast, the study found that boys' sense of happiness remains stable. So what do we think is the cause of this?
I think in terms of causes, it's always really tricky to talk about gender, but the way that girls are brought up is to believe that they are inferior via ingrained passivity. Even though that phrase puts an unfair onus on the girls, like, oh, you're not doing anything because you don't want to, you are treated as though you can't physically do things as well, So you're playing with your grandma, and then you have the boy who plays with the ball, and then you have the ball girl who goes and fetches it. It's a passive role. Right. So if you grow up like that, you will believe that you can't do things as well, and you'll look to your appearance. Because that is something that you're defined by, and you see that, and you hear people talking about it, and you see it all over the media, that you are defined by your appearance. Therefore, you kind of take that in.
All that being said, which is true, why has that got worse in the last 5 years?
Well, I think they're attributing it to social media, and that's fair enough, because that is visual and it's for show. And so Instagram, that's incredibly popular. It's more popular than Facebook among teenagers. And I only know this because I worked in a school, and they told me that Facebook was uncool for old people. So it's very visual, isn't it? So even though women have always been really critical of their own appearance because they are told to be, they're just being asked about it more now. By the sounds of it, they're not becoming more miserable.
So you think this is just a case of them actually being asked about how they're feeling rather than necessarily an actual degradation in how people are feeling?
Yeah, I think people are just a bit more worried about social media, and they want to see how much time people spend on it and how it affects people. And there's all these studies saying that it can cause depression, which of course it seems logical that it would do. It's comparison, and you're already taught to compare yourselves to other women anyway. And I know that when I was a teenager, I had terrible self-esteem. I thought I was ugly. I did think I was worthless. I thought those two things for definite. That was like 10 years ago, say. So, I mean, you do believe the most irrational of things. I'm not ugly and worthless, but you have to really climb there during adulthood. And so social media and the pressures of that, and the fact that you go on Snapchat now and it has all these misogynistic stories like, oh, Kim K, Snapchat's an app.
I know what Snapchat is, but I don't know about this misogynistic stuff on it. Go on.
Well, I mean, it's media articles, so it's for instance, it will be like a Daily Mail preview, and it will say Kim K's revealing dress, or what's wrong with your bum, and mistakes girls make.
Really?
Yeah.
They're looking for ways to increase the money they
make. Looking at the Daily Mail seems to me to be the bloody
sorry. Yeah, so they're looking for ways in which they can increase the money from Snapchat, and this is the way they've gone with that. They're sort of like fast-paced, instant click-grabbing.
But at
headlines.
The same time, if you speak to teenage girls or whatever about this stuff, they seem to be clued in about it. There seems to be this, again, a cognitive dissonance. They will tell you that they know it's all for show and it's all shallow and all the rest of it, and yet at the same time they're taken in by it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're not stupid. They're pretty media savvy, aren't they? And yet at the same time, they're fooled by the same media they think they're being savvy about. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah, but we all are. I think everyone is. Yeah. And also you just become hyper self-aware. And then conversely, boys are not as self-aware. Well, that's a horrible generalisation, but hopefully you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So therefore there's like a disparity there, and then it just creates this distance and then this hatred of the other gender that you're not quite sure about. And it's ridiculous.
Are the boys...
But it has to be so black and white, because obviously it's not.
Presumably, and again this is a huge generalisation, but presumably the boys are at least as guilty of the judgmentalism that's going on, and certainly who's running the advertising for. If you take it away from the internet stuff and the traditional media and the advertising there, that's predominantly men, isn't it, that run that, arguably living out their fantasies by splashing us with images of hyperreal images of and very false images of female beauty, and then that sort of, I'm thinking aloud here, but that sort of trickles down to the rank and file, so to speak, who then in their social media just carry out the same kind of distorted perceptions of themselves and have it reflected back to themselves.
Yeah.
In this sort of hall, again, a hall of mirrors kind of effect, or echo chamber effect, where they're buried in this two-dimensional thing. It's really weird. I think a lot of the depression out of social media comes from it being an addictive quality as well. Addictive behaviours can produce depression, and also the fact that it's although it's hyperreal in some senses, it's also divorced from the three-dimensional world of emotions and feelings and stuff, and as we become removed from that can enhance depression as well, because we just can't relate to real reality.
Right.
Really complex, isn't it?
So how do you think we could put a stop to this sort of thing? Is there any way to I mean, it's very much a very ingrained thing, but people are becoming more aware of it. Is there anything that can be done to maybe make it so these people aren't feeling more and more worthless and ugly?
Yeah, I do think it's turning that way. I mean, as the times progress and things become more modern, I do think that the misogyny is becoming less sort of prevalent. It's becoming more challenged, I guess, and the idea of gender as being completely black and white, boys and girls, boys like football, girls like makeup, you know, boys do things, girls, you just look at them. So that is, in fact, I would say that the internet and fourth wave feminism, I call it fourth wave feminism, is basically just like modern feminism.
Yeah, it's,
you know, on the
it's feminine,
on the
isn't it?
internet.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
You know, because it's on the internet and you do have control over it. So it's like the media, only you control it.
Right.
Although you are right to look at it from the top down completely. It would be lovely if the Daily Mail could stop, you know, trying to get you to think about Kim Kardashian's boobs or a 17-year-old girl's lip gloss or whatever.
Yeah, do we control it as much as we think? You say we control the internet, we control our little bit of the internet.
Yeah.
Whoa, I didn't say that. I said that
sorry.
you can, like, as in you can put a message out there that says, you know, women are not just to be looked at, if you wanted to be that crass. And then that would put a message out there. You know, you have more control.
That's interesting thoughts. Thank you for that. On to the last story. It's the longest running joke of 2016. Donald Trump, the Republican hopeful, is due to meet with Mexican President Enrique Pena Nieto. Just hours before outlining his policies on immigration, Trump will visit the country he vowed to build a wall around. Mr. Pena Nieto has previously accused Mr. Trump of hurting US-Mexico relations and compared the Republicans' rhetoric to Adolf Hitler. Mr. Trump has threatened to stop cash sent home by Mexicans based in the US until the country pays for the wall. This is a bold move. What do we think about it?
Trump apparently basically listens, or has the policy of the last person that he listened to. That's not a joke. That's not a kind of bit of scathing critique of him. That's actually what happens. Okay, you know, if Bob's in the room and says something, and then Bob walks out and Sarah comes in and says something else, he'll probably go with what Sarah said.
Okay.
You know, and that's how it is with this whole, because he's flip-flopped on migrants now quite a bit. It's just bizarre. I can't even get my head around it. I watch quite a lot of American politics because it's a bit less depressing than UK politics, just because it's over there, do you know what I mean? It's more of a spectator sport for us. He is a Frankenstein's monster because he's got an awful lot of press coverage to get where he is, and they portray him, it's a bit like the whole Farage thing over here. The establishment promotes someone as a fake alternative. It's quite a long-standing historical tradition, going back to that Austrian chap they were talking about, and the Italian bloke before him on the horse. Trump is the man on horseback, and the what do you call it? The will. What was that film? It doesn't matter. 1930s propaganda.
Do you think this visit to Mexico can help build relations? Obviously, he's had some very negative things to say about people from Mexico. Do you think that doing this will help those what he's doing there, or do you reckon it will just increase the issues even more?
I think they're in a difficult position because if they had have said that Trump can't come to Mexico and discuss with them, they would have then been made out to look unreasonable, and we would be encouraged to take the view that they are the ones hurting democracy. So they really weren't in a position to say no to Donald Trump and somebody of his power. And you're right that he did get where he is because of mass press coverage that he didn't deserve, of course. And the thing is about Trump is that his sociopathic way of being, which is, you know, his narcissism, his personality and the way that he acts and everything like that. It's so transparent that we shouldn't be talking about it quite as much as we are. So when he goes over to Mexico, he will just say what they want to hear to get votes back from all of the communities that are currently voting for Hillary so that he can win.
Right,
and it's as simple as that.
Because polls essentially show that with minority voters, he is doing significantly worse than Hillary is.
Who'd have thought that?
And I suppose he's trying to get some of that back. Is there anything he can do to get any of that back?
If you look at Romney, now admittedly Obama was an incumbent, but Romney put his foot in his mouth a few times and really paid the price for it. But he was nowhere near as bad as this. I don't think he can win back the minority vote or vast amounts of the female vote. And I would I'm no supporter of Hillary Clinton whatsoever, but I would like to think that actually Trump will have a calamitous time in November, unless there's an October surprise. If suddenly there's a terrorist attack, that might help him.
Right. Well, that's all we have time for in this part of the show, but next I'm talking to Without Theatre Company about their upcoming play. The Daily Rundown returns in a couple of minutes' time. Keep it on That's Manchester on Channel 7.